President Biden has released his $6 trillion budget proposal for the 2022 fiscal year. The plan calls for a massive increase in federal spending. Mr. Biden believes the cost of money is cheaper now, and it's the right time to print and invest more of it. But many Republicans argue that his proposal will result in decades of high debt and inflation. Senate Republicans also on Friday blocked the appointment of a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6 riots at the U.S. Capitol. CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini is at the White House with more.
Well, this time there's sunlight at the end of the tunnel. There's real light.
Standing in front of a massive indoor rock wall in Northern Virginia, President Biden said the U.S. economy has started to climb its way out of the COVID crevasse.
We've gone from pain and stagnation of a long, dark winter to an economy on the move.
In order to keep that ascent going, the White House is proposing what it calls a transformational $6 trillion budget. It includes previously announced programs like the $1.7 trillion infrastructure bill and a $1.8 trillion American Families Plan.
The budget does exactly what the president told the country that he would do, grow the economy, create jobs.
But Republicans in Congress are calling the proposal dead on arrival.
But it's not free. There's no such thing as a free lunch.
The two parties were already at odds over the price of the president's infrastructure plan.
The motion is not agreed to.
And yesterday, Republicans blocked a bipartisan commission to investigate the January 6th Capitol riot.
Senate Republicans chose to defend the big lie because they believe anything that might upset Donald Trump could hurt them politically.
The motion needed 10 Republicans to proceed. It only got 6. Alaska's Lisa Murkowski was one of them.
Truth is hard stuff, but we've got a responsibility to it.
The commission would have had the power to subpoena witnesses, including possibly former President Trump, about their role in what happened that day. With the midterm elections looming in 2022, the former president had warned of consequences for any Republicans who voted in the commission's favor. Now, when it comes to the budget, remember that Congress, not the president, holds the purse strings. And if the two parties can't come together on something like a bipartisan commission, it seems unlikely they're going to be able to agree on trillions in new spending. We'll have to see how that budget plays out on Capitol Hill, but expect a lot of rewrites. Lana?
Definitely. All right, Christina, thank you. We turn now to CBS News political reporter Grace Segers in Washington. Grace, good to see you. So we just heard Christina mention that the bipartisan commission would have had subpoena power. Tell us, does Congress still have the authority to call witnesses to testify?
So the good news here is that there are several ongoing investigations by congressional committees which do have subpoena power. Now, these committees have the power to subpoena all sorts of officials and could, in theory, subpoena former Trump officials and maybe even the president himself. But as we know from the first Trump impeachment trial, these subpoena powers can be challenged in court, and that litigation can take years. So even though Congress has the subpoena power, it may not necessarily mean that it's able to get the same kind of answers that an independent panel might be able to.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you can tell us more about what Democrats plan to do now. Do they have the ability to go about this investigation unilaterally without Republican participation? And if so, how does that work? And fundamentally, how valuable will those findings be if it seems in any way that they are partisan?
Probably the best route for Speaker Nancy Pelosi now is to create a select committee that is specifically focused on investigating the events of January 6th. But the problem is that select committees can be really partisan. So think of the Select Committee on Benghazi a few years ago, which took several years to come up with anything and was seen as an extremely partisan committee that did a lot of political work. So the problem with creating a select committee is that even though it would have subpoena power, it would be led by Democrats, and that could be seen by a lot of people as kind of undermining the legitimacy of any of its findings. One of the problems that Republicans also had with creating a commission was that they argued it could drag into 2022 and affect the midterms. But the thing is, a select committee is almost certain to drag into the midterms as well and keep raising those political problems. So Republicans are betting that having a select committee would undermine any of its findings because specifically of its partisan leanings. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop hearing about January 6th or that investigations are going to stop. I think that this is going to continue for a long time, even if it's led by partisan members of Congress instead of a bipartisan independent panel.
Grace, I want to pivot back to President Biden's budget proposal for fiscal year 2022. $6 trillion is significant. It seems like it's designed, in fact, to get voters' attention. How exactly would it be paid for, and how is it being received on the Hill?
So President Biden's theory with this budget is that by raising taxes on the wealthy and on corporations, it would be able to pay for a lot of these really big priorities that he has. But this is also incredibly controversial among Republicans who are against raising taxes of any kind. So the big tax raises would be raising the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28% and raising the top individual income tax rate to 39.6% for individuals making over around $450,000 and married couples making over around $500,000. He would also raise the capital gains tax, which would affect people making over $1 million per year. So in theory, the very big priorities that President Biden has outlined would be paid for by the wealthy and by corporations, but this is essentially a non-starter with congressional Republicans who say that they are unwilling to touch the 2017 tax cuts package passed under former President Trump, and that they're unwilling to raise taxes on wealthy individuals. So I think really we're going to be seeing a stalemate between congressional Republicans and congressional Democrats.
That's what I was just going to ask you, Grace, because when you say it seems like a non-starter, I'm wondering if the White House has indicated in any way wiggle room or areas in which they're willing to pare back in order to work with Republicans.
Probably the biggest likelihood of bipartisanship comes on fiscal infrastructure. So a group of Republicans and the president have been in talks about a package that would address fiscal infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, expanding broadband. This group of Republicans initially proposed a counteroffer of $568 billion. This was kind of frowned upon by Democrats. President Biden, after meeting with the group, changed his own offer to $1.7 trillion. Republicans just came back last week with a $1 trillion offer. So they're kind of going back and forth. I think that there are still a lot of areas of disagreement. So Republicans don't support kind of the human infrastructure aspects of any infrastructure bill. But I think that if there's any chance for bipartisan working, it's probably going to be related to infrastructure of some kind.
All right, we'll still have to wait and see exactly how that all shakes out. Grace, thanks so much.
Thank you.